I'm all for healthy boundaries, but I tend to think mashed potatoes are the great equalizer. Like, you don't want to spend Thanksgiving by yourself because you can't set politics aside.
Whatever your reason is, I would never let my politics.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a heated debate that has been setting social media on fire. Anna Kasparian isn't just stirring the pot, she's breaking it down, calling out the divisive rhetoric coming from The View and its hosts Sunny Hostin and Joy Reid. From family Thanksgiving feuds over politics to intense accusations about race and media representation, this issue isn't holding back. Kasparian takes on the suggestion that political differences should sever family ties, asking, are our political disagreements really worth tearing apart the bonds we share with loved ones? And more importantly, is the media playing a role in stoking the flames of division? Let's start by looking at how this conversation began. The spark was ignited when a Yale psychiatrist...
Text me the reason I don't show up to see my family, because they won't always be there.
I'm going to disagree.
All right. Well, apparently the View host, Sunny Hostin, is
Amanda Calhoun appeared on Joy Reid's show and made a controversial suggestion. Maybe it's best to skip holiday gatherings this season, particularly after the election. Here's a snippet from their exchange. This advice sparked a firestorm of debate. While some agreed with Calhoun and Reid, many, including Kasparian, saw this as dangerous advice that further isolates individuals based on their political views, rather than fostering constructive conversation. Kasparian wasn't holding back. She argued that such advice only serves to deepen the divide, turning personal relationships into battlegrounds over ideology. In a time when political differences are already creating rifts in communities, cutting off family members because of voting preferences isn't the solution, Kasparian contends. We shouldn't be willing to cut ties over differing views, especially when those views don't come with hostility. The key is to foster dialogue, not to shut it down, she stated. She believes it's essential to create space for healthy conversations rather than immediately cutting off ties with those who may have a different perspective. But not everyone agrees. Some, like Kasparian's fellow commentator, suggest that in certain cases, when the political tension is too high and the potential for hostility is unavoidable, maybe stepping away from those holiday gatherings is the best option. If you're heading into a family gathering where tensions will boil over and you're still processing the election, it might be time for some distance, they said. Yet, Kasparian stands firm in her belief that we shouldn't allow disagreements about politics to destroy relationships, especially with family. Family and friendships shouldn't be casualties of political warfare, she added. Kasparian and others in her camp emphasize that there is a societal norm that if someone is your family, they are entitled to your time, Dr. Calhoun said. But if you're going into a situation where you know certain family members have voted in ways that go against you, against your livelihood, it's okay to tell them you can't be around them this holiday. It's okay to take space for yourself. You should remain open, even with people whose political views clash with yours. Engaging in these difficult conversations in good faith can sometimes lead to understanding, or at the very least, mutual respect, Kasparian explained. The alternative, she warns, is to reduce loved ones to their political identities rather than recognizing their humanity. We need to remember that we are people first, not just political avatars. On the other side of the argument, The View hosts Anna Navarro, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and Sarah Haynes all voiced their disagreement with the idea that politics should be a wedge between family members. They offered a different perspective, rooted in the idea that relationships should transcend politics. Navarro shared a personal example from her own family, revealing that despite many of her in-laws voting for Trump, they still come together for the holidays. She believes that refusing to see family over differing political views is a dangerous precedent. I have family members who voted for Trump, and I'll tell you this, it never stopped me from seeing them, Navarro said. You can't let politics divide you from your own flesh and blood. If you do, what's left? Farah Griffin and Haynes echoed her sentiments, emphasizing that, in their experience, political disagreements don't have to ruin friendships or family gatherings. Farrah Griffin explained that she's always surrounded by people with differing political beliefs, but she's never let those differences affect the quality of her relationships. You can be friends with people who vote differently than you. I've worked in jobs, moved in social circles, and had friendships where we disagreed politically, but that didn't stop us from having a good time together. However, they all acknowledged that there are times when it's okay to step away for your own mental health, especially if tensions are too high. It's about knowing yourself, Haynes said. Sometimes you have to check in with your emotional state before heading into a potentially toxic situation. She didn't mince words, calling it hypocritical. They act as though they're morally superior, yet they are doing the very thing they claim to oppose, dividing people over something as personal as political preferences, Kasparian argued. In this, Anna Kasparian didn't hold back when discussing the View hosts, particularly Sunny Hostin. She accused them of perpetuating a divisive narrative, claiming their approach only fuels hostility and moral grandstanding. Kasparian suggested that their stance of cutting ties with family over politics only deepens the fracture between people, painting those with opposing views as the enemy. Explosive debate, we are faced with an essential question. How do we navigate the complexities of family relationships in an increasingly polarized world? Is it worth sacrificing connection for the sake of political purity? Or should we work harder to find common ground despite our differences? Anna Kasparian's challenge to The View offers a sharp critique of a growing trend to isolate ourselves from those who disagree with us. She calls for a return to empathy and understanding, a stark contrast to the more divisive voices that encourage us to build walls rather than bridges. The question remains, where do we draw the line between political engagement and personal connection? And how can we keep our humanity intact in the face of overwhelming polarization? The conversation surrounding political divides within families has reached a fever pitch, and Anna Kasparian isn't holding back in her critique. With her usual directness, she calls out the media, particularly The View and its hosts, including Sunny Hostin and Joy Reid, for perpetuating a narrative that deepens societal rifts rather than promoting unity. In her view, their approach to politics, race, and media representation isn't just divisive. It actively harms the public discourse by simplifying complex issues and turning them into damaging caricatures. Rather than using their platform to encourage thoughtful debate, Kasparian argues, these hosts present themselves as champions of inclusivity while simultaneously pushing ideologies that deepen divides. One of Kasparian's primary concerns is the media's portrayal of race and its implications. She believes that The View and its hosts often present racially charged issues in ways that fail to resonate with the everyday person. Instead of fostering understanding and bridging divides, Kasparian argues that these media outlets reduce nuanced subjects to sound bites that fuel polarization. By failing to engage with opposing viewpoints and instead demonizing those who disagree, she contends, they perpetuate division. At the heart of the debate is a recurring issue. Should political differences tear apart family ties? This question became even more heated when a Yale psychiatrist, Amanda Calhoun, appeared on Joy Reid's show suggesting that it might be wise for families to skip holiday gatherings if they have relatives with opposing political views. Calhoun's advice sparked outrage from those who saw it as an overreaction, but Kasparian is particularly vocal in his condemnation. She believes that cutting ties with family members over political disagreements only deepens the divide, turning personal relationships into ideological battlegrounds. Kasparian underscores the importance of maintaining communication and engaging in good faith debates, even with those who hold opposing political views. She insists that relationships should not be defined by political affiliations. If people can stomach a civil discussion, she argues, there's always the possibility of learning from each other or even changing perspectives. This kind of dialogue, she asserts, is the antidote to the polarization that plagues society today. When a loved one supports someone who stands against their values. So where do you stand on this issue? Should politics tear apart family ties, or can we still find common ground despite our differences? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.